The NHL trade deadline has come and gone. So I'm just going to be here, going to talk about probably some of the bigger trades that happened, give my general thoughts, and we'll go from there. Now, there are a lot of trades, of course, naturally. So I'm just going to pick one, go down the line. We'll start with the Tyler Myers trade to Dallas. I have a list here of all the trades that happened. I'm just going to start with the Tyler Myers one. In return, Vancouver ended up getting a second round pick for 2027 and a fourth round pick for 2029 in exchange for Tyler Myers. I don't hate it. I think Dallas did need another defenseman. Uh, Tyler Myers is a big dude, and he goes on that defense of other really big dudes. So I think in that word in that in that regards, it's a fit for that team, and I think he'll help. I think he'll help more than hurt them. Nick Blankenberg to the Avalanche for a fifth. Here's a big one: Mackenzie Weegar going to the Utah Mammoth for 3 second-round picks, all for this year. Jonathan Castagna and Olimata. Now, I think we as NHL fans really overvalue second-round picks. The chances of a player getting drafted in the second round and then becoming an everyday NHL player actually are not that high. So I actually really like this deal on both sides. And I like it for the Flames because odds are one of those picks end up becoming a really good player. And then for on the Mammoth side of things, I like this deal because Mackenzie Weegar, I think, helps out your defense right away, which is something you needed. You can probably put him on the second pairing. And, I know the Flames really like him over there as a really good leader. I think he'll help out in that regard too. This deal, uh, explain to me what Edmonton was doing in this trade deadline. You get Jason Dickinson and Colton Dock in exchange for Andrew Mangiapane and a conditional first round pick. Now, I should mention, I think the main reason that Chicago was able to get a first round pick here was because of the salary retention. So Edmonton probably had to send a little more in order to make this deal happen, sweeten the deal a bit. Mangiapane has not worked out in Edmonton whatsoever. And Jason Dickinson, he's been killing penalties over there on the Blackhawks. They have the best penalty kill in the league. And the Oilers were like, hey, we wouldn't mind a penalty killer from the best penalty killers in the league. So that's why that deal was made on Edmonton's side of things. Uh, Vegas gets nicked out. Now, the trade that I think really broke the market, if you ask me, was Nicholas Waugh going to the Colorado Avalanche for a first round pick in 2027, could be 2028, and a conditional 2026 fifth round pick. This was the trade I think that really broke the market because Nicholas Waugh, probably a guy who I think is actually pretty good. He can drive his own line, and I think he elevates the players around him. So I don't think Nicholas Waugh is a bad player by any means. I just don't think he's worth a first round pick. But I think that's the trade that really broke the market. I was told it was supposed to be a buyer's market. I don't believe that for a second. With some of the prices on these players, didn't feel like there weren't any absolute superstars like the Brad Marchands of the world. Where there wasn't anything like that available. Like there weren't any crazy, whatever. Minnesota gets Jeff Petrie from the Panthers, Michael Bunting goes to the Stars. I think that works there. Now, here are a couple interesting ones. The Senators trade for Warren Fogle. They give up a couple draft picks. And then they trade David Perron to the Detroit Red Wings. Now, it's very clear the Senators are trying to retool. That's exactly what this is. It's a retool for them. Sam Carrick goes to the Sabres. Connor Garland goes to the Blue Jackets. Now, this trade I'm 50-50 on. Connor Garland has had a down year. He hasn't had any points in however many games. I forget, it's a lot though. But I don't think that's entirely his fault. Everyone on that Canucks team has had a bad year. And I think that he should be able to hopefully find his footing in Columbus. Now, so I do think it's a good deal in that regards for Columbus. That I cannot talk today apparently. Buffalo getting Sam Carrick, I think that's good. I think they needed more center depth there. Buffalo also had a deal in place for Colton Parayko, but he decided to not waive his no move clause, so they had to settle for the next best option. So they called Winnipeg. They were like, "Hey, give us Luke Shen and Logan Stanley. We need help on our defense." And they were like, "Oh, okay, sure, yeah, just give us a 2027 second round pick, a fourth round pick, and a couple other guys." And that was a deal that was made. So I like that deal a lot for Buffalo. They did need more defense there. So yeah, good job, Buffalo. You were actually buyers at the trade deadline for once. Speaking of actual buyers at the trade deadline, the Anaheim Ducks, man. John Carlson, probably the most jarring trade of any of them. No longer a Capital. He was there for what, 17 years? Real long career there. Apologies for the abrupt cut. But yeah, as I was saying, John Carlson, no longer a member of the Washington Capitals. Crazy, man. I thought he was going to be a Capital his whole career, just couldn't get a contract extension done. But I find this very interesting on Anaheim's behalf. They think they can win right now. And assuming Carlson doesn't sign an extension, this is a pure rental, and you gave up a first round pick. I know it's a conditional first, whatever. Very interesting. Moving on. Minnesota Wild, they were really trying to make the trade deadline interesting today. So shout out to Bill Guerin. Nick Foligno for future considerations. I don't have to say that I love this deal because I do. Nick Foligno obviously isn't going to score you 10 goals or anything, but he's a good piece. You know, he can help a team out. That veteran presence, I think, will help. He's also reunited with his brother Marcus Foligno, so I think that'll help a bit. Corey Perry going over to Tampa Bay from the LA Kings, which I'm surprised about because I thought Corey Perry liked it in LA, but he goes back to Tampa, and we'll see how that plays out. But if history is any, you know, indicator, then hey, Tampa, congrats on your Stanley Cup appearance. Uh, Hinostroza goes to the Panthers. Nicholas Delorier, he goes to the Hurricanes. Uh, Big trade here. Braden Shen, he goes to the Islanders. And the Blues, in return, get Jonathan Drouin, a third round pick, Marcus Gidloff, can't say I've ever heard of him, and a first round pick for this year. So, yeah, big trade there. The Islanders really trying to ramp up their scoring, which they kind of needed to do anyways. So, I like that deal for the Islanders. Another big trade we have here, uh, Justin Falk. He's going to the Detroit Red Wings. In return, the Blues get another first round pick. At the time I'm recording this, still don't know when that's for. Justin Hall and a third round pick that I we don't know when it is. So I like that a lot. I think the Blues did probably about as good as they possibly could have done. They got more first round picks, which I think they desperately needed. But yeah, so good for the Blues. They got what they needed done. They got what they needed to get done. So good for them. Toronto, they trade out away Bobby McMahon to the Seattle Kraken. The Kraken have been linked to many, many forwards, and they needed one really, really bad. And they got one in Bobby McMahon for a fourth round pick and a second round pick. Honestly, not too bad considering all the other prices for other players that I think are worse than Bobby McMahon. So I think that's a good deal for Seattle. Last trade I'm going to talk about here is Scott Lawton. He goes to the LA Kings, who I don't really understand what they're trying to do. If you want the truth, they get him for a conditional third rounder, and it becomes a second round pick if the Kings make the playoffs. So honestly, I like that deal for the Kings. I do. I feel like you know Kings they're in a tough spot right now. You have a lot of guys on your injury report, and I mean a lot. And you want to make the playoffs one last time for Kopitar in his last go around here. You just fired Jim Hiller. You're not in a good spot, but you're trying to make the best of it. So I don't know what to make of the Kings, man. I really don't. But yeah, that's it for all the at least big trades. Overall, I don't really understand what the Rangers are doing. I feel like the Flyers could have done more. Uh, I mm, I should probably say this. The Penguins. I made a video this morning. I said the Penguins really need a center right now. They need to shut down defensemen. Oh, I didn't think you were gonna get that. But honestly, I'm okay with them standing pat for the most part. They did get a winger who's 6'8". I'm not really putting a ton of stock into him though. I'm honestly okay with the Penguins standing pat for the most part. They're doing okay right now. You don't really need to change much. And, you know, you're in a situation where, okay, if you give up too many assets and you're a flash in the pan, you're going to be back in a bad spot next year. Or say you don't make the playoffs this year. So I'm okay with them standing pat. I really am. But I guess that'll do it for this one. Don't die. Have a great day.